It's pretty easy to have a discussion about the key decisions that really shape the direction of our lives. It's not always as easy to contemplate exactly when the groundwork for those decisions are made. And there are a lot of factors that come into this. Something that can be very important for junior high and high school age students to kind of wrap their mind around is shown through a little timeline. So I have a timeline here. And this is a timeline that just shows an average lifespan from an infant to 80 years old. These key decisions that we talk about really are taking place, the groundwork, the critical decisions that are made for them, and oftentimes the decision itself is being made in this chunk of time. Almost all of the key decisions that we are going to lay the groundwork for are going to start taking place in the years between 15 and 30 years old. And so we can see just this little chunk on the timeline is going to have an impact for the rest of the lifespan. The types of decisions that we're talking about are going to include whether or not we complete high school, if we go on for college or additional training, whether we will pursue a career or survive by just maintaining various jobs. This is the time frame where decisions about marriage are made, children, where people at least initially get established, if they buy a home, the kind of car they drive. A lot of decisions during this chunk of time are made regarding spirituality. And it goes on and on and on. When we're talking about marriage and children, decisions are made in relationships through this phase of time that will critically impact that decision and will ultimately have a big play on that. And so as we look at these key decisions that are going to be faced and are going to be made, it's really important to recognize what we want this to look like. Not just this, but on and on and on down the road. I think as a preteen or a teenager, really even thinking 230 is a pretty good stretch. But having an idea of how it's supposed to look, how they want it to look, what is their target? Do they know the types of interactions they're hoping to have? Do they have a sense of, if they're looking toward college, what type of a career they would hope to have? Have they seen healthy relationships? Do they even have an idea of what that looks like? Because if they don't, then there's really nothing to aim for. We have to have some ideas of how we want this end of it to look so that we can strategize to get there. Now, it's not to say there won't be obstacles or difficulties or things unexpected that might show up and make this challenging to get to that goal that we have set. But if we don't even know what we would want it to look like, then those challenges are going to really upside down our efforts. Having an idea of how we'd like it to look can at least help us to combat those challenges that may come our way. If we were to take the world's most famous archer and have them perform a feat of amazing skill, we could probably put them quite a distance from their target, possibly spin them and blindfold them and whatever types of tricks we want to make it even more difficult. And if they really are the world's most famous archer, they're going to be able to pull that arrow back and hit the bullseye because they have the skills, they have the training, and they have the skills. Now, you could take someone with all of those skills and all that training, but if they didn't have a target, they really couldn't demonstrate their skills for us. They have to have a target. And that's true with all of us. If we don't have a target, if we don't know what we're aiming for, it doesn't matter how much talent and skills we have. we're not going to know how to funnel that energy into accomplishing our goals. So it's important to know what it looks like. If people haven't been able to see it in their own families, or they just really don't know what it looks like, then there's other important people in their lives that maybe have modeled the types of things they would like to see when they reach that point in their life. And to talk to those adults, to see what they've done, how they've made those successes in their life. That's a really great groundwork to lay so that they can start to imagine what this target is and how they're going to achieve it. Nothing makes me happier than to run into a previous student, especially the students who really did not have that groundwork laid for them at home, who maybe didn't see what that looked like, but to run into them 5 or 10 years down the road and have them with excitement tell me how they're achieving these things, how they figured out what it was going to look like. They strategized and they made it happen. So it's definitely possible. It might seem more easily laid for people who have seen those examples. Not always the case, but it certainly can be challenging for everybody. Knowing what it looks like, recognizing the significance of this chunk of time, instead of just surviving day to day, which we occasionally all have to do, we really need to start putting some thought, though, into what the future is going to look like. And if for some reason these things haven't come together for you and you're on the flip side of this, maybe even somewhere over here, it's never too late. It's never too late to start making great decisions, strategizing, and making our goals a reality.